Welcome. Feels like we haven't done an episode in ages.
How's it been?
2 weeks. It's crazy times, isn't it? Welcome, everybody, to this week's podcast episode. I'm not sure which number it is now, but we're nearly at 300. It's pretty crazy times, isn't it?
Crazy times twice this morning.
Crazy times. So we have a bunch of questions from the coaches, some really good ones today that we're going to dig into with my, I'm not going to say esteemed colleague, my assistant, Anthony, we'll forget his middle name, Park. We haven't actually ever talked about that on the podcast, have we? But we'll move on. First question is, what are your thoughts? This is a great one. What are your thoughts on programming in terms of how far ahead, weekly or monthly, or depending on client? I use True Coach for my programming, just looking to build a bit more of a system with it from a time point of view on my end and what's best for the client. This is a freaking mint question.
I'm going to start, or do you want me to? Personally, once you've done goal setting and started to look at planning with a client as to where they want to go and whether there is any specific training-based, performance-based goals that there needs to be integrated into the program, I personally feel that you should have a block of programming built out. Now, the time frame on that is subjective to you and the client, in my opinion, right? We can be very generic here and go, I like to, and this is mine, I like to have a 6-week block of a programming kind of skeleton built out for each client that progresses the client over time, right? Whether it's to a performance-based goal, the KPIs that they want to meet, or that we've agreed that they're meeting, at least 6 weeks. But in theory, that will probably be, I've got this 12-week view, top level view of kind of this is where I want to take the KPIs off the back of the conversation, the goal setting and the planning. This is when I want to take it. So it's 12 weeks, but I'll literally do 6 weeks as a block initially when I sign up a client and take them on, right? So I'll do the first 6 weeks, but you've kind of got the 12 weeks reverse engineered, and that's like halfway point, if that makes sense. So that's kind of how I do it. Now, the only thing that I would say to this is that on a week-to-week basis, I would review it off the back of their feedback and change it and adapt it, because a lot can change from a client perspective in a week. And that might mean rotating different exercises. It might mean scaling certain things back. Ever the feedback that you get on a week-to-week basis, i.e. whether you do a check-in or not, or whether you have a conversation with a client or not every single week about their program, then I might make adaptations, but not huge. It's just a time in my week where I will go through any feedback and then review it. I wouldn't need to change too much from experience of that. So summary of that is, normally I've got this view of 12 weeks normally as a general view of things. I will build the full plan over the first 6 weeks, and I will review it and tweak it and adapt it on a weekly basis, depending on how the client's feeling from a fatigue perspective, sleep perspective, stress, whatever it is, nutrition, all of that. And then that's how I will tweak things. So it does get tweaked on a weekly basis, but not too much, because the skeleton is pretty much there to hit the KPIs that we have planned. Anything you would add to that?
I think the only opinion I've got on that is, I think for the vast majority of coaches who go off the fly to a certain extent, not go off the fly, that's probably a wrong term actually, but intuitively just react consistently to clients week in, week out. From a structure and programming perspective, I think this applies to the majority of them, purely from a stance. If you, and we're literally going through this with a couple of the guys now, like if I was going to ask your method and ethos and how you'd articulate that to clients on how you program and why you're doing things, a lot of them actually can't answer that very well. And I think that actually puts you in a bit of a hole from A, knowing and understanding actually what is working for clients rather than random. B, from a business sense, having the confidence to be able to deliver results because you know and understand the structure you've set up works or doesn't work, right? And C, I think that then from the front end side of things, it really, really helps from going, no, this is for your goals, aspirations, like these are the phases we go through, this is how things are set up, etc., etc. It gives people clarity. I talked about this recently on like retaining clients throughout the summer. It's very much about kind of future pacing them, isn't it? And really helping them see the future rather than coming up against a brick wall and going, I have no clue how to get around this. It seems way too hard. So the first and only option is fuck it, I'm stopping, or it's not value anymore because I can't see myself being able to do it. So I think more structure at the beginning. It's like working with a client, isn't it? You would give them way more structure at the beginning and let them build that into their lifestyle. It become habits, it become intuitive later down the line. So yeah, I would highly agree. For the vast majority of coaches within their first, not even within their first couple of years, to be honest, because this particularly applies to like people who've been doing it for a lot longer than I'm working with at the moment. So yeah, I definitely feel that is a absolute must for the majority of coaches, to be honest.
Next question is, what in the PTMA do you find the most challenging? What side of the PTMA do you find the most challenging, or what? I think that's what he's put. What part of the PTMA do you find the most challenging?
I think like the most challenging thing is always working with people. I think but that's not a negative. That's a good challenge. Like I don't see that as like a barrier or a negative whatsoever. Like it's a constant challenge. And I think if it wasn't a challenge, I probably wouldn't be doing it. I think at the moment it's managing, and we've obviously just done a huge overhaul of like the back of house, the way we communicate, the systems. So I reckon it's a massive job, and that's very challenging at the moment because you're trying to almost think 10 steps ahead of trying to think about the potential problems, the bottlenecks of this stuff, and for it to last, for a good chunk of time in the future as well. So you're not just constantly redoing stuff and making decisions on that and then pulling that together so it works for 3 different people doing things slightly differently. Do you know what I mean? From a personality point of view, and then working with clients. That's very challenging at the moment. But again, it's not a negative. It's a good challenge. So yeah, I think working with clients is always challenging. I think if it isn't, I think it'd be quite boring, and I probably wouldn't be doing it. And the operational side of things, the efficiency side of things, the productivity side of things is challenging. But again, a good challenge. Yeah, and all the day-to-day shit is just fitting it in, isn't it? About you?
I don't like monthly review week. The reason why I don't like it is because of the sheer amount of detail that we have to go into. And the reason why I think it's part of the job that is the most challenging, because you're looking at the facts of that month. You're looking at the feelings of that month, of how that person's got on. There is loads of variables to that in regards to whether it's personal, business, client-based, that type of stuff. You're then going through the planner to make sure that the person's on track from a goal-related perspective, key results, and then going through the tracker to make sure everything's been tracked and them numbers are aligned. And if they're not, you're challenging people on that, and then you're trying to extract all of that and then guide on the plan and create autonomy in that. So it's difficult because obviously we do a lot of it over video feedback, the monthly review. Some we'll do on calls and all of that, but there is just so many moving parts to it. And if you times that by 30 people, if all 30 people do the review, or 20 odd or whatever it is, however many I've got, that's a lot of time, a lot of energy, and me sitting down doing that. I try to do 2 or 3 back to back and then come away from it. So it takes me a full week in most cases. So that I find drains me the most, and I find most challenging, more so because of the attention to detail that goes into it. And I'm proud of the attention to detail that we do go into it, but it's fucking extremely challenging. So yeah, that first week of every month is a bit of a challenge for me. Good for you if you're in the academy, because it's not as if we just read something and fuck you off. Do you know what I mean? The next question is it me or you?
Hey, well, you just fucking calm down, right? What do you guys do when in a period of overwhelm?
The first thing I do is get everything down that I feel overwhelmed about. I start to separate that into what I can control and what I can't. And then I start to look at it in terms of going, where right now and what right now are my biggest priorities in relation to my goals? And what I try to do is prioritize that or them things and make sure that they're the most present things within my week, because they're going to move the needle the most. And I'll put all of my time and my focus on attention on them. Secondary to that is there's any other stuff that's floating about that is I wouldn't class as a higher priority at that point, then I would either delete them and fuck them off for now and push them down the road a little bit because they're not that important, or I would prioritize them somewhere else. So for me, the process I go through is sitting down, usually getting it all out of my head, and then prioritizing it in that way, and then making sure that absolutely everything is booked into a T into my schedule. So I turn up and I know exactly what it is that I need to be focused on and what I need to do. But it has to align with what I'm working towards, why I'm working towards certain things, and therefore that gives me a bit of an opportunity to numb that level of overwhelm. So yeah, that's how I manage it. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's a case of definitely dumping everything out of my head as much as possible, and then factually, relentlessly prioritizing. And I think fighting an urge of what I want to do versus what I have to and need to do, which align with the our objectives of the business. That's challenging because you've got like you'll always lean to one side of something that you either find comfortable, that excites you, that's in your wheelhouse, that isn't a hard slog particularly, or it's a dopamine hit, so to speak, versus the things that less competent in, less enjoy less. You're always going to have that battle, but usually there's a massive portion of the stuff that you don't like to do, which is going to probably move you forward quicker. So it's very similar, but more so like just that battle of conflict in decision making on, I want to do this, but actually that can fucking wait for a week. I need to do this first. That's a difficult, challenging thing. But that's how I help reduce overwhelm. Once I get rid of that, reduce it.
Cool. Next question. How did you find the restructure of the business? And how did you find the time management of current workload and management and boundaries?
As I say, like the restructure's been very challenging. Again, just making sure that we're not going a long way around things to achieve the objective, and finding ways which are going to be, they're going to last us, a good while. So obviously stress testing a lot of that stuff, and then we've gone live today, and this will be a stress test week, and when we find glitches, which we will, there'll be kind of amendments, and they'll be like, oh, that would be really good there. So there'll be a constant development. But I think up until now, it's been challenging, a bit frustrating, because you go down one route, you think you've got it, and then it's not the right route. So it's been, as I say, been very challenging. Time management wise, been tough. Boundaries, that's been tough as well, because you I can't let this affect directly what I'm doing day to day, so I have to find time from somewhere. That's sometimes giving up on or compromising some other things, or compromising some personal time, and there's been a little bit of both, I'd say. So it's been challenging, but it doesn't last forever, so it's kind of a dig in now, and it will give you time back, which is the whole point of doing it, being more efficient and time effective. So just investment, like anything. That's it, really. Next, what would be your biggest advice going into a brand new gym, opening up, to make the most out of it?
Get clear on what it is that you want and need from that gym in regards to the amount of clients at what price point and the amount of time that you need to invest into get that return. So being super clear of going, right, this is the revenue number I need to hit, this is the volume of clients at this model at this price point, and then going, okay, where in the week am I going to fill them spaces? So I would be super clear on that. I'd then start to bulk in and around that schedule as to where you're going to work on the business. But then predominantly I would look at how many hours can you commit to being inside that gym with lots of probably varying lead magnets. So stuff that's going to help people out, whether that's programs, whether that's something around nutrition, whether that's workshops, all of that type of stuff. So I would look at, say for argument's sake, because I know what he's going in with, is if you've identified that you're going to go in with a model of small group PT and you're going to go, right, I'm going to do that at 6 and 7 o'clock Monday to Friday. And I'm also going to do it at, I don't know, the type of gym he's going to is probably going to have an influx at say 9:30, 10 o'clock. I'm going to do it there. And I'm also going to do it at 3 nights a week at 6:30. Right, now they're my operating times. Now within that, I need to be making sure that I'm in the gym at them times to interact with people, to do the lead magnets, to get them onto workshops and all of that, and make sure that I spend time in the gym interaction and building them relationships. Other things that I would do is that I would make sure that I would be super targeted with my socials in the build up to that gym opening in regards to targeting local area, so tagging local areas, making sure that you follow certain things like the community pages and start to let people know that you're going to be in them gyms and this is who you're going to be helping, this is what you're going to be doing, this is what you're giving away first, all of that type of stuff. I would start to flood them community pages personally with trying to extract some leads out of them. And then obviously you can start to nurture those leads and book them into whatever it is, workshops and stuff like that you would do. Yeah, ultimately, people in there need to see your face. People in there need to see how you work. And that's a lot of how I would go about it personally. Anything you would add to that?
No, I think right now, like when people are coming in, you're leveraging the fact that no one knows where everything is. No one knows, how things work, or a lot of people won't know that. So like, it'll bring new fresh gyms, open up opportunities for new people walking into a gym in regards to their experience level being low. So, like Ant said there, like putting stuff on that is going to meet that market where it's at, and the opportunity is going to be massive when you open a new gym. It always is. So I'd just be aimed and ready for that. Be really clear, like Ant said there. But apart from that, no, nothing to really add.
What were the biggest obstacles or struggles you faced personally in your coaching?
Oh, I would say dealing with a contradiction of insecurity and ego at the same time. So I think from an ego perspective, what the outside looking in, kind of trying to portray that authority and expert position, potentially in a place where you feel quite insecure about or you're actually not sure about. I think that was a very difficult challenge, especially when you go into right now, especially when you go into like a very busy online space from an advertising and opinions perspective. There's a pretty shit culture at the moment, I think, of very experienced coaches calling out very inexperienced coaches, which I get from a safety perspective, but it's not productive. It's just making people feel even more self-conscious and insecure about their knowledge, etc. right now. And so, yeah, I think from an insecurity perspective, it's, focusing on what I need to know to help my client's next step versus what I need to know as much as another coach. I think that was quite a difficult struggle, definitely. And I think from an ego point of view, actually kind of A, asking for help quicker, and B, feeling comfortable, which I did relatively quickly with not knowing the answer and being okay with that, I think was quite a challenging situation. And the only other thing I would add to that is I think learning that communication is probably the number one skill and development that you can have as a coach, particularly around having difficult conversations and knowing when to be, probably very much earlier on, learning when to be direct and when to be naturally quite reflective and using quite open questions, knowing when to kind of dial in that. So I think from that perspective, knowing when to lean into a style of communication which doesn't come naturally to you, which is not a preferred way of talking or listening or giving information. So that was probably, those three things I think were the biggest challenges and struggles that I've personally faced, because it's you, isn't it? It's how you communicate and listen and take information and give that information back out again. So yeah, that's what I'd say are the most challenging things. Anything to add? Do you want to add anything into that, Anthony?
I think you've kind of said something similar to what I'd say in regards to probably not realizing that my insecurities were getting in the way of me trying to solve people's problems for them, and when they're a client of mine. So I was trying to quick to solve the problem, therefore build authority and trust, and therefore get a result for people. It doesn't always work like that. And I think the other side of that is that I've openly spoke about my, probably in the first 5 years or so, my struggles in and around kind of challenges and around lead generation and marketing and all of that, and my perceptions and expectations and mindset around that. And it took a lot of changing them kind of beliefs, self-limiting beliefs and expectations on it. So they'd be the main two things.
What's the number one thing or top 3 things that persuades a client on working further with a PT?
I think the first one is how you make them feel. Like on every interaction, on every piece of feedback is taking into consideration them as a human being and how well you understand them, and therefore how well to communicate with them. And yeah, essentially how well you make them, how good you make them feel. And that's not just obviously constantly praising them and all of that type of stuff, but knowing them enough to make them feel good about themselves, or to make them feel good in that environment and safe, and a sense of belonging, I think is super important. Like that element of psychological safety and someone feeling like they have the right coach and they have the right person in their corner will keep someone with you regardless of the rate of result for a long time. Now, some people will have different things to say about that. I don't really care. I just care about the fact that, is the person happy in regards to making them feel successful, making them feel like they've got a level of psychological safety, and that's all important. That's really important from a job perspective that you've got as a coach. The second one would be results, like them seeing a level of competence from what it is that they're doing. So the education that you're providing, the results that you're getting, and the progress that they're making, like ultimately that's what they've come for. So them seeing that and being able to handle that, I think is super important. In regards to the ups and downs and the non-linear process of that result, I think that's really important. There's so many, but I'd say that they're my top 2. I think that's kind of the top 2 for me. Like you look at that sense of psychological safety, that sense of competence and them feeling successful, that sense of helping them manage setbacks and therefore making them feel that they're in the right environment. I think the only other one is, in fact, that I'd add to this is, like we touched on it before, is constantly being able to put them in a position where they're future paced. So there is a forward view on what it is that they're doing and trying to achieve. So they've always got sight of, actually, I'm working towards something. I think that's super important. So they've probably been my top 3. Anything you would add?
No. Next one's for you, actually, as well.
It's for me.
Yeah, I've already answered it. Spoken to Nick about this already, but what are some things you find most important when choosing a gym for face-to-face PT work outside of purely client base?
The first one is I would make sure that there is a strong kind of coaching culture within that gym. And what I mean by that is that there isn't, like, they've got quite a lot of PTs. So that says to me that if there's quite a lot of PTs in a gym, then there is a bit more of a coaching culture than a gym that has 3 or 4 that's been open 10 years. There's some problems in that gym, right? Some people will look at that and go, yeah, but there's loads of opportunity in a gym like that. And there is, don't get me wrong, but I would much rather work around coaches that I could bounce ideas from, learn from when I'm new, and in an environment where the members of that gym are a little bit more savvy to, actually, I need to have a coach at some point, than a gym that's probably got a bad environment of that. Okay. So I think that would be definitely my first one. I think I would look at the model that I want to run and see if that gym, so for argument's sake, similar to the question before, if I was going in and I want to do SGPT, layout of the gym, kit, structure, how busy it is peak times, if that's when I want to do SGPT, for argument's sake, if that's the model I want to run, I want to assess it in and around that. Another one would be probably the area, the demographic of the area and the psychographic of the area in and around the building. Like, is it in a populated place? Is it in a corporate place? Is it in a community? That would steer my decision making quite a bit as well. I would definitely pay attention to to the rent model, to the model that the gym is running. These models, obviously, I know this guy's in Oz, but there's models in the UK where I look at them, I think it's utterly ridiculous in regards to, like, the coaches are working 33, 35 hours a week and probably only getting about 35% of the profit from that. So the model would sway me. I would look at that and go, where do I feel like I'm, yes, putting a bit of skin in the game in regards to rent and all of that, but at the same time, where's the trade-offs in that, whether it's membership, the type of gym, all of that type of stuff. So yeah, they've been my main ones. Anymore? No, I think if I'm being super picky, I'd like to walk into a gym that I know there is some level of development that the gym support with. So whether that be business, whether that be coaching, whether that be any practical stuff. Like, I think if I was new going into a gym now, I'd like to be in an environment that supports that. So that would be definitely something that would be a bit of a bonus, a nice to have and not a need to have, because you can obviously get that elsewhere. Apart from that, they were the main things. Is there anything that you added that I didn't?
No, it's very similar, to be honest. I think the position of, obviously, when you're going into a gym, it also, you got to think about, obviously in Oz, it's purely kind of going in, paying rent. They don't really have a lot of the models that we have over here from an hour's, offsetting rent point of view, and obviously private gyms. I think the big portion of it also depends on like what situation you're in right now, in regards to like Mitch, who this is, like obviously has a full-time job, young family. So there's obviously those types of restrictions, and being time poor from building your business would very much kind of sway decisions. So like if you've got quite an active social media channel and you've got some good engagement already, going into maybe a private gym may not be maybe a good option, because you're probably around better quality of coaches and culture, like you said. But if you've started from scratch and you're time poor and social media isn't a thing at the moment, your big spot gyms where you've got volumes of clients would also be an advantage, because it would be less time on marketing as well as coaching. So yeah, I think situations as well, like current situations as well, would kind of sway what gym model I'd choose. But yeah, got one more question. I don't know if you've seen a lot of it, but have you seen a lot of how, particularly Pure Gym PTs are getting called out for the videos they put up?
Yeah, it's in my content for this week.
Is it? Is it? What's your thoughts?
I think it's an absolute fucking joke, personally. I think it's just spineless little wankers who are looking to get the biggest, like to get huge reach or decent engagement, to just get a quick laugh at new inexperienced coaches who clearly, probably the best way to handle that is just sending them a bit of a message. You go, "Hiya mate, hope you're well. I've seen you post, and these are a couple of things. If you don't, would you mind me giving you a bit of advice? These are a couple of things that I would do before putting something like that out because of this technique or that technique," and just to give you a bit of support. Now, there might be people out there that's done that, but the little worms and the little wankers who keep using it as opportunity to get reach and clout, little clout chasers, that's what they are. I just like, and you'll get obviously all the little worms and wankers in the comments then, won't you? That like boost their engagement and all of that. I know there's mentors out there that encourage that purely from a reach and engagement perspective. So I personally think all of that call out culture is shite. Imagine the majority of coaches who come into our industry who are fresh off a level 3 are not equipped technically with a decent, proficient level of technical competence to go and coach people, because the qualifications are wank unless you've done a PFCA one, for argument's sake. They're wank. So these have got to come in with that experience like we all had, or that lack of experience. But then now everyone's faced with having to market online and therefore go out and help people and give people advice. And that's all they're doing. That's all they're doing, whether it's wrong or right. Like, we all did it. I remember going back in my first few years. I look back now at the inductions I used to do and cringe me back out. Some of the shit I used to come out with, and some of the techniques that I used to give. That's my point. But these lads and these girls are now putting it out there online because they're trying to build a business. and they're trying the best way to build a business, or they're trying a way to build a business by putting content out to help people. And that's where it's coming from. And it's taking these spineless wankers just for a bit of clout chasing reach to go out there and do stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's a fucking joke.
I think Pure Gym have also got a responsibility as well, haven't they? I think obviously we know that quite firsthand, don't we? That there's very little filter that comes through to that, which isn't putting them in a position as well where they're, there should be like that. And there was, wasn't there? There was, I'm pretty sure there was a little bit of a process when we were there about what could be shared and where the channels that it goes through to be shared, wasn't it? Or accepted or something.
It shouldn't matter. Like if these young coaches want to go out there and go, actually, I've got to go and build a business. I've chose this as a career. And if I want to put a page up and go and put information out, and that information might be wrong, like we've all been there. We've all done it.
No, I agree with that. It's the fact that Pure Gym are then, when they're sharing it or Pure Gym are, collaborating on it or sharing it.
Right. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's not a filter from Pure Gym to go, you know what, that maybe you want to revise that.
Right, I didn't know that. I just thought it was these young coaches putting their own content out. And then off back of that, they're getting absolutely grilled. I've seen 2 or 3 last week, and 2 of them were about the same bloke, the same lad. And honestly, like, it riles me. It riles me. It honestly bad, because it's just online bullying at the end of the day. When really all it takes is someone just to go into a messenger and go, mate, could I give you a bit of advice? Now, if I would have seen it, I would have done that. Like, but I've only seen it when people have been absolutely hammering this young lad. Do you know what I mean? It's a fucking joke, man.
It is,
honestly, it winds me up so much. Yeah, listen, we all like a laugh online and all of that type of stuff, but I think at someone's expense who's trying to make a career out of themselves and do something with their life, I think it's a piss take. But the fact, if Pure Gym are collaborating on it and not acting as a filtering system, then they're either clout chasing themselves for more reach and engagement, or, like you just said, they haven't got someone to filter it through.
It's piss poor though, isn't it?
It's bad, mate.
Setting people up to fail, and they know that. Like, they're not stupid, are they?
No.
Anyway, just a talking point, because it's something I've just constantly been exposed to at the moment.
Yeah, I've not seen a lot of it. I've just seen 3, and 2 of them were the same lad. And it's one of them where I tried years ago, didn't I? I stopped myself from going into, I used to spend my Friday nights fucking in comment sections arguing with people, and it was ridiculous. And I tried to stop myself now, but like, my fuse is far too short than to sit in comment sections like that, because I think it's ridiculous. But it's just tight. Like, honestly, it's just, like I said, we all love a laugh, but it's that, let's there fucking try to do something. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's one way to trigger me on a Monday morning. Well done.
Anyway, right, hope you all enjoyed that one. And we will be back next week. Any final thoughts, Anthony?
No, I've just got the words clout chasing wankers in my head now. So I'm done.